Oh, hi, YouTube. The Disaster Artist, the movie about the making of maybe the worst movie of all time, is hitting theaters, and we've got your review right here on Screen Junkies News. Hello, I'm Dan Murrell.
Oh, hey, Dan, I'm Roth, Cornet.
You're tearing me apart, Roth!
You know what made that quip? Was the little laugh right ahead of it. Good story, Dan.
What a story.
So this movie, The Disaster Artist, is not the worst movie ever made.
No.
In fact, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. This is really enjoyable. Full disclosure, I am fully inducted into the cult of The Room. If you don't know what The Room is, it kind of defies description. It was written and directed by this guy named Tommy Wiseau, financed independently for reportedly $6 million. It is possibly the worst movie ever made, but in such a glorious way. This is a movie I saw at a midnight show back in, I think, like 2006. I'd never heard of it, never seen it. I was immediately captivated by this. I own the movie. I've seen it many times. I read The Disaster Artist, the book written by Greg Sestero, who's in The Room and plays Mark and was a co-producer. I am as in the inside circle with this movie as I could be. So I was worried that maybe I was a little too inside and that I wouldn't like this movie. Mm-hmm. I love this movie.
I love this movie as well. Now, I've seen The Room. Mm-hmm. I have not read the book. So I am not as I wasn't sure what the film was going to be, other than it's James Franco. It's clearly going to be, and Seth Rogen. It's going to be a comedy, right? Yeah. It's going to be a comedy about one of the most fascinating films I think ever made, because there's a lot of bad movies, but I think that one of the reasons that this one captured so many people's attention was just Tommy's personality. I remember seeing the billboards that they show in the movie in LA.
For 5 years, he bought a billboard. He bought a billboard and it stayed up for 5 years. With
an ad for The Room and his own phone number. I mean, it was like insanity, this thing. So and not only, they shot on film and HD just because he clearly did not know what he was doing at all. No. A character is recast mid-movie, never mentioned. There's just so many rich moments in this film to dive into with friends.
The movie opens with these kind of little vignettes from real people, real filmmakers and actors. And I think one of the first ones, it kind of captures one of the most fascinating things about this movie was one of the filmmakers says, you could give this script to 5 of the best directors in the world, and they could never make a movie like this. No. And that's true. It is one of the Room is one of these, there's dozens of, but we've reviewed, I don't know how many bad movies. There's dozens of bad movies that come out every year. The Room is like a singularity. It's like it can only exist in a certain place at a certain time, and it is just, I don't know. It is one of these little miracles of creation that just exists in this world.
It's brilliantly, it's a beautiful disaster. It is brilliantly bad. And it's also Tommy Wiseau, it's like his whole persona, the fact that there's such and this is something that the movie dives into, there's such an air of mystery about him that he has this clearly thick accent from Eastern somewhere in
New Orleans.
But he insists he's from New Orleans. He won't tell you how old he is. Again, I postulate, and I am 100% certain on this, that he is Dracula. But the thing, and I knew that it would be a funny movie, right? Mm-hmm. Dave Franco, the movie very much centers on the relationship between Tommy and Greg, who plays Mark in The Room.
Right.
And it's Dave Franco and James Franco, his brother, who are both very funny, talented actors. But what I did not expect was that there would be a level of humanity in the film, and that Dave Franco, as a director, because he directed this film as well, was able to ride a line where there were moments that I was both laughing and sad at the same time. I was laughing and a little bit ashamed of myself that I was laughing, because Tommy is completely unself-aware. He is coming from a sincere place of wanting to be movie star and not villain. Yeah. He cannot accept sort of who he is in the world. And in that defiance, he finds fame. Yeah. And he finds success despite himself. It's amazing.
When I heard that James Franco was going to write and direct, or he didn't write, but he's going to direct and star in a movie about the making of The Room, I was like, this is either going to be the best idea ever or the worst idea ever. And because there's a very shallow way to come at this movie where it's like, we're just going to recreate it, which they do, but it's not all the movie it is. We're just going to recreate a bunch of scenes from The Room, and you're going to coast on the ridiculousness of those scenes for the movie to work. And it's a caricature of just everything, and there's not going to be really any depth behind it. And so part of me was like, I hope they don't do that. And they don't. And I think James Franco's actually great in this movie.
Great.
Because Tommy Wiseau is one of those guys that's just like, he's so distinctive. And there's no one like him. And so again, as a fan of The Room, like I was like, how could I ever look at someone playing Tommy Wiseau and be like, well, that's James Franco doing an impersonation, an impression. And 5 minutes into this movie, I bought the character, and it is a story about. I was talking to my girlfriend afterwards, and she kind of put it in perspective. You know, it's like this. Here's a guy who is he's almost. People laugh at him, and he's almost admirable.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants. He's gonna get it. He has a vision. Is he too committed to that vision? Yes. He is. However,
is it an insane vision?
It is an absolutely insane vision, and he does crazy things to get it, but he is uncompromising. Yeah. And it's like, how many people have that kind of commitment to what they want?
Or cash. But yes, also commitment. I agree with you, because and if this had been an extended Saturday Night Live sketch, I think it still would have been really, really funny. Look, everyone in the world comes out of the woodwork to join this cast. It is so clear how beloved this film is in Hollywood, meaning The Room, in Hollywood, and how much people wanted to be a part of this, because every little role has a great actor in it, right? Yeah. But the fact that they don't just do that they really do create this relationship between Tommy and Greg that you care about, that is really kind of a complicated relationship, that you're not exactly sure how healthy it is in certain moments, but in other moments you have so much empathy for them both, is kind of a remarkable thing. And it's still hilarious. I was laughing the entire way through, even in the moments that I felt bad that I was laughing. I related to Tommy in a way and Greg in a way that I didn't think I would going in terms of, we've all had things that we wanted in life, and then maybe, I'm just speaking for myself personally, maybe just didn't have the chops to get it, and the fact or the strength of will to get it, and the fact that they just don't care, that the movie opens up with them in acting class. And Tommy,
he's terrible.
But he's so committed to it.
Yeah.
And he is so unafraid. And he is so completely putting all of his insane self out there that I just went, and Greg goes, God, I wish I could do that as an actor. I wish I could do that too.
Yeah.
I wish I could just put myself out there and not care what people thought.
Yeah.
You know?
And it really kind of gets into the mentality of why that movie is what it is and why it is so crazy. It's because he was completely unchecked.
Yes.
No one told him you can't shoot an entire outside scene on green screen. It's going to look terrible. No one told him you can't ADR half the movie.
But to be fair though, Dan, a lot of movies are right, but to be fair about the green screen, he's Dracula and he can't go outside.
Well, that's
true.
Why
that we've solved that.
We did. That's true. I didn't take that into account. But no one says you can't build an alley that looks exactly like an alley that's right outside, because he's like, I'm in charge. He's like, I know what I'm doing. It's too bad that you don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to make the movie that I want to make.
I don't have time to go over script with you right now. I don't have time.
My favorite is there's a character in the movie in The Room, if you haven't seen it, that at one point announces that she has breast cancer. And you kind of see behind that, and she goes up to Tommy, and she's like, this never comes back. Like, why does my character, and James Franco just nails it so perfectly, just says, is twist. But these things of just like, he's just like, well, I'm sorry you don't understand, but I know exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. So
I know why it's there. I know why that's there. Yeah, this is such a phenomenon. And I think it's a movie that celebrates being so passionately in love with something that it doesn't matter that you're not good at it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Tommy, to his credit, and Greg have rolled into the wave of what The Room is. I'm sure it was painful at first because, and they depict this a bit in the film. to realize people don't like your movie for the reasons you wanted them to like it.
Yeah.
But he's still totally rolled into that opportunity, which is not something a lot of people know how to do.
No.
Which is just embracing, in spite of him not understanding really what he was, once other people told him what he was, he embraced it.
Yeah.
He didn't fight that. And you know what I mean?
He didn't just embrace it. He said, "Oh yeah, that's what I was doing all along."
I meant to do that all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
all along.
He's a little crazy. Let's be honest.
He's
But-
been alive a long time.
Yeah, yes, since he's Dracula, centuries. But yeah, it's such a great kind of like really complete portrait of like the pitfalls and the rewards of just being obsessively committed to what you want. And you're going to alienate people. You're going to mistreat people.
Yeah, he was
very, he didn't care how he was treating people. He didn't care that he was going over budget or that it was inconvenient to people. It's just like, I'm going to do it. And it kind of shows you the pitfalls of that. But it also shows you just kind of like, this is what it's like to just not care.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the other things about the film that was interesting to me is that, he's both hero and villain.
Yeah.
There are times when you're like, Tommy's being a jerk.
Yeah.
He's really being awful, and it's impossible. You understand why people don't like him and are resistant to him, and still yet when you see him so vulnerable and feeling bad and being hurt, you can't help but to empathize with him. This is a really funny movie, though. I feel like I'm not.
It's hilarious.
I'm not highlighting that enough. It is really hilarious.
And part of it is just seeing these faces that pop up for a minute or two, and it's just like you can tell that this was something that they read the script or they knew the room, and they're like, I have to be a part of this. In supporting roles like Paul Scheer, who I know had been talking about this movie for years. Seth Rogen, obviously, but then you have other. I don't want to spoil it, but there's other like kind of like A-list names that pop up. There's one that was in the beginning of the movie that was back at the end. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even recognize that person. It's a kind of a celebration of it, but it also isn't afraid to kind of delve into like I felt sorry for Tommy.
Yeah.
I felt sorry, and James Franco just really nailed that character. And I don't know. There's some people that would say that this is kind of too lightweight of a movie to get major awards consideration, but this is maybe the most fun I've had in a movie this year. Part of it because I just am kind of obsessed with this movie like so many other people are, but it's also just a genuinely funny movie. It's genuinely touching. It's incredibly well acted. I think James Franco in particular nailed it as a director and nailed it as an actor. And this is one of my favorite movies of the year.
Me
so far.
too, 100%. And I have to say that Dave Franco has a subtler role, right?
Yeah.
But he is also the places that relationship goes.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting, and I think that they both handled it really deftly. It's a little weird in moments to think that they're brothers, but that aside, I highly, you're right, comedies, any genre film, it's so tricky to get them noticed in terms of awards, but this is a great film. Could not recommend it enough.
Yeah.
I wonder how people that are not familiar with The Room will respond. I have no idea. I would love, if anybody out there watches this film and you hadn't watched The Room, let me know what you thought of it. I wonder if you can hook into it, just given is the story strong enough on its own?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely had the advantage of kind of being in the tank for The Room and knowing some of the things, but I almost kind of think it might be an advantage because there's so many comedic elements about the movie itself, The Room, that if you're introduced to on top of the comedic elements that are already existing in this movie, it might enhance the experience. I'm not sure. That's something I'm very curious about because The Room kind of started as an LA phenomenon and grew outwards. So there are places I'm sure that's like, what's The Room? And this is just, another James Franco movie. So if you haven't seen The Room and you see The Disaster Artist, let us know what you thought of the movie. Is it just preaching to the choir, or did it have another level? We want to know. The Disaster Artist is going to, I think, slowly roll out over the next few weeks. Let us know what you think. Go find it. This is a great time for the movies. This is when a lot of the really prestige movies start coming out, a lot of the year-end list toppers, and
I hope this is a sneaky hit.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope that this is a movie that just kind of worms its way in, and it's going to be 15 years later almost.
Yeah.
Tommy, who's laughing now? All right. Disaster Artist. Go see it. Great movie. I'm Dan Murrell.
I'm Roth Cornet.
Join us next time.
Click here for more awesome Screen Junkies news and click the logo to subscribe.